30 days since the attack on the AK-9 Abuja-Kaduna bound train by terrorists, which left 8 persons dead and hundreds of people abducted. Arise News can exclusively report that 2 pregnant women aboard that train are in the terrorist den, and one of them has given birth. We can also report that terrorists are demanding the release of their top commanders in exchange for the abducted train passengers. Arise correspondent Nisa Gabriel has the report.
On March 28, 2022, tragedy struck the nation. An Abuja-Kaduna-bound train was attacked by terrorists in Captivity, Kaduna State.
Bring us our life back, please. We're appealing to the government.
There was an outpouring of grief, anger, and sadness by Nigerians over the deaths of some promising citizens aboard the ill-fated train.
Accede to what the populace at all.
2 weeks after the incident, a video surfaced and over 30 kidnapped victims could be seen pleading with the federal government to meet the demands of the abductors. Credible sources close to Arise News say the attack on the ill-fated train was carried out by several terrorist faction groups, and the leaders of these groups speak Kanuri, a common language in northern Nigeria. According to sources, the terrorists are from the northeast region and they are backed by the deadly Islamic State group ISWAP. Arise News can exclusively report that the leaders of these groups say they do not want ransom from relatives of the kidnapped victims or the federal government, but they want something else. They are demanding the release of their top commanders and sponsors in detention in exchange for the abducted train passengers. Our sources say there are indications that terrorist sponsors in government detentions have strong ties with Boko Haram. If released, they would cause a bigger security threat to the nation. Arise News further gathered that a woman who was 8 months pregnant before her abduction has delivered her baby with the help of doctors brought in by the terrorists. But the survival of the newly born is still in doubt. Family sources say the terrorists are organized and coordinated. How they could get medical supplies and doctors into the forest remains shocking. We gather that these terrorists subject their victims to daily torture and untold hardship and have allowed them to speak to their relatives just once. Families of the kidnapped train passengers have continued to protest the government's prolonged silence on the release of their loved ones. They'll be holding a press conference in Abuja and Kaduna, demanding to hear from the government about the status of their loved ones in captivity. However, from all indications, negotiations between the federal government and terrorists who attacked the ill-fated train are ongoing, but it's yet unclear if their demands will be met or not. Nisa Gabriel, Arise News, Kaduna.
30 days make 4 months. It's 1 month since that incident happened, Tundu.
The nightmare is just completely unspeakable, and it's even more galling to now know that more light has been shed on that initially cryptic message from the terrorists that, oh, the federal government knows what we want, and us, the public, did not know. Now that we do know, I'm sorry, it's obvious to me. That prisoner swap that they're requesting, that request must be met. The hostages have to be released. I blame Richard Nixon for all of this. It was an off-the-cuff comment that he made in 1973, we don't negotiate with terrorists. It wasn't even scripted. It has now become some kind of political mantra all over the world. And it's complete hypocrisy. Even the United States where, well, okay, when he said that, the terrorists at the time that were held hostage in Khartoum were killed because he said that. But since then, the American government has negotiated with terrorists. They do. Even from Ronald Reagan's infamous Iran-Contra, look at Obama. He swapped 5 Taliban prisoners to release Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. This is what happens here. So this whole we don't negotiate with terrorists is actually a lie, and it should be. The whole idea of any government, any responsible government, is to ensure that the lives of the hostages are preserved. I don't want to be emotional this morning. This is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. If they're asking for a prison swap, for God's sake, give it to them. Look at the children, they're newborns in that forest. It's completely ridiculous. They have to release those hostages now before they start killing them. What a responsible government does is prevent these kidnappings from happening in the first case and deals ruthlessly with those who perpetrated. But when they have your citizens in their hands, get them out.
Okay, the plain truth. is that the Nigerian government has always been negotiating with terrorists.
Of course.
Either through third parties, by proxy, or by other means. After all, we were in the same country when some governors in the northern part of the country, decided to negotiate with terrorists. It didn't work. Maybe it didn't work, but they negotiated. And then when they were disappointed, they then decided that maybe this is not an option that does not work. Now, also at the federal level, there have been backroom channel, efforts to reach out to terrorists. So the Nigerian government negotiates. All that talk about, oh, we don't negotiate with terrorists is meant for the headlines. That's one point. In this particular case, what is writ large, that's the phrase, what is writ large, is the fact about the failure of the Nigerian state. And the fact about how the failure of the Nigerian state has emboldened the terrorists to become so audacious, so courageous, to even call the bluff of the Nigerian state. I thought we used to say on this program that there's an ecosystem, an economic system, and all this is about profit, how to collect money. Now we have these bandits, lining up with the Islamic State of the West African province and saying, no, we're not doing this now for ransom. We want the Nigerian state to do this and that. The affected families have made calls. They've stopped taking their calls. And now they are giving the Nigerian state conditions. Release some of our leaders who are in your custody, and then maybe we'll begin to talk. That in itself underlines the seriousness of the security challenges that we face in Nigeria. Families are saying, we are even ready to pay ransom. The terrorists are saying we don't want ransom. Our business is with Nigerian government. And yet somebody will come tomorrow and say, the Nigerian government is trying its best. How have you tried your best? To the extent that terrorists are now beginning to call the shots with regard to security in the country. All of that having been said, I think we need to say again that the Nigerian government needs to do more, needs to find a way out of this, checkmate situation, in which we have found ourselves. And how? There are people in that captivity with the terrorists who have medical conditions. People suffering from hypertension, diabetes, cancer, who need to have access to their medication. They could die. 8 persons were killed during the initial attack on March 28th. 26 were injured and hospitalized. Over 160 persons are in custody. They are showing them on the screen now. Some of them are not well. They are sick. So are we going to wait for a situation whereby many more will die? Among those people in captivity are children as young as 4 years old. Right? Toddlers who are in captivity. So why is it that the Nigerian leadership does not feel embarrassed enough to say that a 4-year-old Nigerian, a 3-year-old Nigerian should not be in the custody of a terrorist? That again is a question. There are 2 pregnant women among the abducted persons. We're told that one of them had given birth prematurely. Now that woman who has given birth deserves to be rescued because she's not going to get the best of care in a terrorist camp. And now 1 month after, to be 1 month already, even as we speak now, we don't have evidence that there has been any very serious effort to reach out to the families of the concerned people, of the concerned persons. Now, the members of the families even took their case to the National Human Rights Commission. We're told that maybe DG State Security Service, DG Director General Nigeria Intelligence Agency have met with some of these affected families. But what came out of it? The situation is so desperate that the governor of Kaduna State is even saying, look, do something out of the box. He may not have the best ideas, but he has expressed his concern about the need for the Nigerian government to act every extra day that those sick people, those children, there's still one pregnant woman, and everyone stays in captivity with this Boko Haram bandits, ISWAP connection that sabotage the Kaduna-bound train from Abuja on March 28. Every single day that they spend there. It's a comment on competence, on integrity, on commitment, on the readiness of the Nigerian government to give full effect to Section 14, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution, which says that the duty of government is to ensure the security and welfare of the Nigerian people. And there's no ouster clause in that part of Chapter 2 of the Constitution. There's no ouster clause saying only the rich should be protected. The Constitution is very clear under fundamental principles and objectives that all of us deserve protection.
When we talk amongst ourselves, in local parlance, we say, may Nigeria not happen to you. It is sad that Nigeria has happened to these people. Question is, will Nigeria redeem itself? 30 days on, we are watching. Would the government redeem itself? A government where the National Security Advisor said we shouldn't say anything because they are coming up with good advice to bring these people out, and 30 days on, nothing has happened. A government that had ample intelligence that the trains were going to be attacked. And you see, that's why when the DSS released a message recently and said there might be attacks on places of worship, I asked myself, yes, it's a good information, but why are you telling us? You know why I asked that question? Because even with the ample intelligence, the state is supposed to protect the people. Yes, it's good for us to be aware, but the state always fails in its own parts. Just like I'm sure the DSS released intelligence as regards this, but the state failed. And this was the same country where the presidential spokesperson, I think it was Mr. Femi Adesina, said a couple of months ago that before the end of President Buhari's tenure, security situation will improve. This was the same country now, that it was the day after Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, spoke, that we had this, that Nigeria is safe and secure. So what is happening, really? In 1984, Sonny Okosu sang a song. By 2024, it will be 40 years Sonny Okosu sang that song. He said, which way Nigeria? Which way to go? I love my fatherland. We love Nigeria now. We love this country. We want it to work. But we are asking government, which way Nigeria really? Where people are kidnapped? Which way Nigeria? Where Nigeria keeps happening to everybody? Where you can't just move 2 hours away from Abuja to Kaduna? Which way truly Nigeria now? Which way? Government, please, whatever you do, get those people out. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, yesterday took his nationwide consultation tour in promotion of his presidential ambition to his home state of Ogun, with a declaration that he swore the oath of allegiance only to Nigeria and not to any single citizen of the country. Osinbajo was addressing swelling allegations that his decision to run for president was a betrayal of his former principal and erstwhile political godfather, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who had also declared his presidential ambition ahead of the 2023 elections. The vice president, who addressed an ecstatic crowd of supporters, said he was not in a state to campaign yet, but to inform his people of his intention to be president. He added that he was one candidate that hit the ground running. He said he owed no one aside Nigeria any allegiance, any apparent reference to Tinubu. The statement draws a line at accusation of disloyalty and betrayal being sold by supporters of the former state governor, Lagos state governor, I should say. In his speech, Osinbajo said he had consulted widely across different sections of the society and leaders, including Buhari, before throwing his hat into the race. Sundu,
Well, I don't ever think that it's up to the person being accused of betrayal to say whether he has betrayed or not. It's up to the person who feels betrayed to say whether they have been betrayed or not. So that's an opinion he's expressed. Others will differ. What for me is most striking about this story is the fact that it's often been said of the vice president that he will not get any governors to support him. We can now see that his governor, our governor, the governor of Ogun State, Dr. Abiodun, does support him. And it's also been said that none of the kings in Yoruba land will support him. We can now see that the Alake of Egba land does, as does the Oba of Remo land. That's interesting to me. And also that point that it is repeatedly made about the vice president from his supporters and even indeed from his opponents that he is eminently qualified continues to be stressed. However, in this race where he's concerned, his qualifications is just one factor. There's also the factor of zoning and that recurring accusation that he was disloyal. So I found it interesting that he stressed his loyalty to President Buhari as vice president. He referred to himself as having showed the utmost loyalty. So I think he's also aware of those criticisms, and that's his own way of addressing them. To say that he's not some kind of a traitor, he's not a disloyal person, I think that's how he's trying to address that.
Dr. Bati?
Okay. One major subtext to the vice president's declaration of interest in the presidency has been his relationship with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And clearly, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu camp had made it clear that, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo trying to show interest in the presidency with his, ex-wife godfather and benefactor showing interest in the office is an act of affront and a demonstration of betrayal. There is concrete evidence to show that they are not happy with them. And it is one of the reasons why he was told that he can no longer, for that act of affront, play politics in Lagos State. And that was why his own supporters and even, his own manager said, oh, okay, he's no longer in Lagos politics. He has relocated to Ogun State politics. So it's a big issue. The people who do not want him because of his past associations, they've not been quiet about it, and they've made it very clear. They've even gone for that to say that if he does not get the ticket, his political career anchored on Lagos State is finished. But okay, so the question to ask is that if we are running a democracy, should any one individual be so powerful to say that your political career in a state in which you were born? Professor Yemi Osinbajo was born in this Lagos State. He grew up here. He went to school here. He even attended University of Lagos. So who is that individual who will now say, no, for having the effrontery to say you want what I want, your career in this Lagos State is finished? I wouldn't be surprised if Vice President Osinbajo, if he doesn't get the ticket, may have to relocate to Iperu Remo. Because they may make Lagos uncomfortable for him.
Going to run him out of town.
Yes, so don't let us deceive ourselves. That is the fact. However, yesterday, when he went to Ogun State to start charity at home, to continue consultations, when he met with the Akarigbo of Remo, the Alake of Egbaland, the Paramount of Yewa land, the Olu of Ilaro, and other stakeholders, he made it very clear to say that, look, I owe allegiance only to the Constitution of Nigeria, not to any individual. And I think that that was a very strong demonstration of courage, of confidence. Because before now, we had been complaining, people cannot be pushing somebody. If you want to be president of Nigeria, come and stand and show that you are a man. Yesterday, the vice president, from what has been reported, showed that he's a man. And that he wants to do what he wants to do. And he has decided that he's interested in the office. I commend him for that. However, what then came out of that interaction was that everyone there, from the Alake of Egbaland, I have to start with my own monarch. The Alake of Egbaland to the Akarigbo of Remo, which is his own constituency, and then the Olu of Ilaro, they all said, look, this is a competent man. In fact, the Alake of Egbaland, Kabisi, said that, look, you have gone there as vice president. We will pray for you when you return as president of Nigeria. So he got that support from his immediate constituency. And Governor Dapo Abiodun followed him everywhere. Even opened the doors of the presidential lodge in GRA, Ibarra GRA, for him to meet with stakeholders. So this is showboating. This is the vice president saying, I've got balls and I'm ready. But what will be the consequences at the end of the day? I think, as commentators, as analysts, we should just say, look, nobody is more superior than any other person in this country. You cannot say you are a godfather, you are superior to another person. That's the strong message that, Professor Yemi Osinbajo was sending yesterday. As for Governor Dapo Abiodun, well, I wish him well. I don't know this one that he has stuck his neck out to say I'm standing by the vice president. If you look at the circumstances of his emergence, there are many godfathers in this game. I hope they will not say, you too, you are supporting the man we consider a betrayer. But okay, I don't want to say all of that because my people in Ogun State, they will interpret it along partisan lines. But I just hope that the governor is in a safe place, sticking his neck out for President Yemi, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo.
Was that a Freudian slip there? President.
No, okay, maybe.
Everybody.
And he's from Ikene, not Ikperu.
Everybody.
He's from Ikene.
He's from Ikene.
What's the difference between Ikene and Ikperu? They are all Remo people.
Yeah, Ikene, everybody has a chance to run. The vice president has a chance to come into the race. Yes, he has a political godfather that is not happy. We all know that. And the political godfather has told him the word that he has no son that is running for president. So the battle line is drawn between both camps. The question is, who is the fittest that will survive? You know, in Yoruba Palace, they say, Ele Miloma last. So it's going to be a fight to finish between these two people. Jagaban and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, the cerebral, intellectual Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. Jagaban, this political maestro of this Western region and his political empire. But for me, let's go back to history. History teaches us something about the Oyo Empire. When the Oyo Empire was about to end, it was because of many palace schools. It was because of the connivance of Bashoruga and the Oyo Mesis that scuttled the Oyo Empire. Could this be part of those connivance?
No, Bashoruga. Bashoruga is from Ibadan. It was Alafin, Aule, Arogongon, and the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of the time. Yeah.
Okay. Bashoruga and the Oyo Mesis.
No, not
they
Ga.
pushed.
Ga,
No,
Ga is from Ibadan.
No, okay, okay.
It was
Thank you.
Aule, Alafin,
Very
Arogongon,
good. Okay.
and
the Oyo Mesis.
the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of
Okay.
the time. Who colluded
Who colluded?
with the Fulanis in 1848.
Enemy.
And
Yes,
and
in
enemy.
1848.
So, when they colluded, it led to the decline
Yeah, of the Oyo Empire.
of the Oyo Empire. Because there were a lot of infighting. Tricks here and there.
And how did it end up for them?
And how did it end up for them? It ended up in disaster. That is what is happening today to the political empire of Bola Tinubu. It's not only Mr. Osinbajo.
Professor, please.
Professor Osinbajo. There are others too that are coming that were his political sons. So the question is, hope his political empire dey pampe to withstand this onslaught? Because a lot of them are going to come. So it's not going to only be Mr. Osinbajo. At least we've seen some of them. We've seen Ibikunle Amosu. I used to be from that big political family. It's already out in the race. So it's not. So the battle is not even coming from one section alone. It's coming from many sections. Yemi Osinbajo is just, there's a lot of attraction on Professor Yemi Osinbajo because he's the vice president, the incumbent vice president. The question is, will his empire stand the test of time? It's something for political watchers and historians. We will write about this many years to come. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Michael Wilson to give us updates on global business activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. So when the good folks in Asia and the markets there went to work yesterday, their beginning of the morning, they were having to cope with some rather soft earnings from the United States, which may be taking them a bit surprised. So Asia Pacific's fairly mixed, really, in much of their dealing, although mainland stocks did attempt to bounce back after those heavy losses yesterday. Shanghai Composite down up about 0.4. A good figure out of China is their industrial profits, which rose 8.5%. Markets took that as being quite an impressive figure, and it does look as though the government there is doing what it can to stabilise and prop up the economy. Obviously, there were heavy losses late last week and in the early part of this week as people were trying to work out what's actually happening with that COVID lockdown, particularly now in Beijing. And the fear that Beijing is about to join Shanghai in lockdown is absolutely palpable. So there's a lot of worry there. And adding to that, investment banks have been cutting their growth forecasts for China. One sees GDP growth of less than 4%, sort of median of these ones surveyed is about 4.5%. Hong Kong exchange profits fell by a third as listings are dropping there. So Russia is halting its gas flow to Poland and Bulgaria. For its part, Bulgaria, Sofia, has said that it will take steps to find other supplies. Poland says it will manage without Russian gas. The World Bank is saying that the Ukraine will cause the biggest price shock in 50 years to the world economy. It doesn't matter where you are throughout the world. It'll pose the largest commodity shock since the 1970s. And it said disruption caused by the conflict would contribute towards huge price rises. And it's going to have a lot of economic effects, particularly amongst poorer countries. So, as I was saying then, turning our attention to the United States, and really a bit of a negative narrative there. Stock futures are mixed this morning. Tuesday's sharp losses, Alphabet missed, that's the owner of YouTube and Google. Google came in at $68 billion. That's 23% from the same period last year. Even though it's 23% increase, that's nowhere near the 34% which had been expected. However, Microsoft earnings beat across the board, so the stock is up on that, and it does include the company's quarter to buying Activision Blizzard last quarter. Shares of Robinhood dropped. It's interesting, that, isn't it? The way that retailers, investors tend to move away when things get a little hairy. Speaking of which, let's spare a thought for Elon Musk. Yes, he can walk away from the Twitter deal now with a $1 billion break fee. That's much less than people had already thought. His bid is $44 billion. But Tesla shares are actually slipping as well, and that might hit his margin loan that he has taken out against his stake in the electric car maker. What is the ECB going to do about inflation? Well, from yesterday, it looked like Christine Lagarde was actually opening the door to a rate rise in July. She's very, very keen to point out that they won't be going the same way or same route as the fast raising interest rates that the Fed's actually doing. And actually, you know, she was saying, I mean, it has to say that originally there were going to be no interest rate rises as far as the ECB is concerned in 2022. And even though the Fed is shrinking its balance sheet, it's not expected that the Fed will start to do that until 2024. So a very, very gradual approach to rising inflation. One of the reasons for that is she was saying yesterday she doesn't really believe that the EU economy, the mixed economy, is as strong and is coming out of the pandemic as quickly as the one in the United States. Credit Suisse, well, what can you say about that? We know what the problems have been with that particular bank. It's taken and expecting a loss from Ukraine and so on. And also there's going to be a change of management management at the top. So overall, then, European stocks are in for a fairly gloomy day, I think. It will all look fairly mixed. There may be little sparks of sunshine here and there, but no, not really. The EU is mulling tapping sanctions-hit assets to pay for rebuilding Ukraine after the war. I'll give you a quick economic snapshot of the UK. We got those public spending figures yesterday. Not as much public spending, but of course, with the increase in interest rates, then debt interest becomes that much more expensive. Oil finally trading pretty much sideways in Asia. I have it Brent crude at about 105, WTI about 101, and gold really just moving sideways as it appears to be doing, given the strength of the dollar. That is the global view this morning.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. First, let's start with Russia stopping its supply to Poland and also to Bulgaria. Bulgaria gets about 90% of its energy supplies from Russia. And all that Bulgaria is saying is that, this is, a breach of existing contract. But Poland seems to be in a better situation. Poland is already having a gas supply contract with Qatar, and also with Lithuania, and also with Norway. And it's hoping that, it has 80% reserve storage. And with all of that, it doesn't matter. So Poland seems to be in a better situation. But part of the reason why, Poland can talk like that is because, the summer season is almost here, and it will not need so much gas like the rest of the EU. But by autumn, many of those European countries are going to have very serious issues. So the question to ask, the residual question, is that really, can the EU or the world cope without Russian oil and gas in the face of this, what is now beginning to look like a protracted Russian-Ukrainian war? Second issue that I would like to bring up has to do with this report that just came out of the London School of Economics about how the new Brexit rules are causing major shock to the United Kingdom. UK imports to the EU reduced drastically. Slight improvement in 2021, but it is very clear that Brexit, post-Brexit rules make it difficult, particularly for small operators, to send exports to the EU. And also the scope, the variety of goods that can be imported have also been reduced. Despite, the United Kingdom striking new trade deals with Australia, New Zealand, looking towards the United States. And the point that has been made now is that, the UK government will try to protect small businesses, within the United Kingdom. How does the UK intend to do that, considering the fact that there are other complications, other headwinds here and there?
The London School of Economics report, actually, if you look at it, a bit of an example of fake news. It depends what the leaning of the particular publication that's reporting out actually takes. If you actually look at what that report says, it's saying that small businesses, particularly tiny ones, are actually turning away because they don't like the red tape. It's not an overall move, and nor is it affecting either the move of those small companies to look at new markets, which don't actually have to be within the European Union, or in fact, is it a reflection of what big corporates are actually doing as they spread their footprint globally? So I reported it yesterday to you, saying that it looked like the London School of Economics was actually saying that Britain is doing worse because of Brexit. Well, parts of it are, but you'd expect that. I mean, this is a developing story, but really, what the LSE was saying is not encapsulated in a headline saying that the Britain as a whole is doing worse after Brexit. It's talking about some of the small businesses, not that they are unimportant. I firmly with you, Doctor, on this, that I agree that small businesses are the backbone of any economy, not because of their particular size, but because of the amount of people that they actually employ. And they're very, very close to economic moves in the same way that big corporates aren't. So that's the LSE report. As far as Russia's concerned, I don't know really. What I suspect is that what we're seeing from countries like Poland and like Bulgaria are that they are moving to where they're going to get supplies from. Poland, as you quite rightly say, is not over worried by it. Bulgaria, Sofia is, but Sofia is going to move on to getting it from elsewhere. I think, once again, the key to this is going to be where the big consumers of the EU, Germany, France and Italy, will be getting their energy from. If they can shift that, then it will all well and good. I was reading over the weekend that actually the Russia weaponizing these energy sources will cause the price of them to rise. So you've got the EU now looking at maybe putting price caps. So it's all very, very complicated. I don't think there's a single catch-all answer to it. Depends where you are, depends what your needs are. But it's not quite as simple as Russia, I think, just saying no more energy, therefore the rest of the world can go hunt for it. I mean, I think they'll find it elsewhere.
All right. Okay, real quickly, Michael, I'd like to talk about Tesla shares yesterday. Tesla shares went down 12%, the reports that Elon Musk might be selling some of them. I mean, what's the effect of that on the market? It went from about $996 per share to about $896 per share. I also want to talk about, the cost of living crisis in the UK. Boris Johnson was talking on Talk TV yesterday, Rupert Murdoch's new television station, and he offered nothing to placate the British people. So is it doomsday for Britain already? Nothing. There was nothing, he said, as regards cost of living. The high cost, the fact that people are borrowing money, the fact that credit card debts are mounting up and things like that. He's got nothing.
Yeah, I don't think it's doomsday. I think that's going a bit far. I think it's very serious. So there's no question about that. Grocery bills up about 6%. That's what they're actually saying. That's a lot, actually. And that as you can see, is actually causing a lot of the supermarkets to think to themselves, how are we actually going to cope with that? Are we going to cut prices? Are people going to buy more own brand stuff? Is that how households will actually keep a tab on their spending? It may be, I hear other headlines this morning that the government is actually looking to maybe help a bit more with energy bills. Where that money comes from, I do not know, because as I was saying in the snapshot that I gave you this morning, the UK, as did a lot of other countries, spent a huge amount of money during the pandemic thinking that low interest rates would continue and that they'd be paying it back. Well, who told them that? If they'd been listening to us, as you well know, they would have not been saying that low interest rates are going to continue. We've been noting that the inflationary pressures for about the past, 12 months now, I think, on this programme. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? And this is nothing. This before any thought of the Ukraine war and all the rest of it. So I think that what he's facing right now, Boris Johnson, if you want to talk politics about it, is possibly the end of his days. It depends. I mean, generally speaking, yes, there is a cost of living crisis. Even the leader of the Labour Party was taken to task by his own party for saying, forget the Partygate stuff, concentrate on the cost of living. That's where the government is actually weak. Will that continue? I suspect it probably will, but like most politicians, Johnson is particularly good at playing away, and he's conducted himself, as far as the UK public's concerned, quite well as far as the Ukraine war's concerned. Cost of living, whole other thing. I think cost of living is much more important, but that's probably just me. This is the feeling that I get from the markets, is a feeling I get from people I speak to. The cost of living crisis, and it's not just in the UK, of course, it's affecting every developed country in the world.
Well, it's certainly not just you at all, Mr. Wilson. Thank you for your time this morning.